Hello and welcome everyone to Time for a New Watch. This is Jeff, and today we're going to be looking at a couple of vintage Seikos. One of them is a Grand Seiko and the other a King Seiko. Both of these were produced around the late 60s and early 70s. And there's not a whole lot of information available, at least on YouTube, about some of these models. And I just wanted to kind of, take a look at them and tell you kind of how to tell, like, kind of what to watch for when buying them, and show you some of the pitfalls that I definitely fell into when I bought mine. Now, let's start out with the kind of the history of these two pieces. You see the dials are very similar, and this is because, like, at the time Seiko had two factories, the Suwa factory and the Daini factory, and they were each kind of, Seiko had them competing to make high quality, like, luxury watches that were just as good as any Swiss watch at the time. And the result was King Seikos and Grand Seikos. Grand Seiko obviously was brought back because they're still around now. They came back around 1998, but King Seiko never came back. So I'm going to start with King Seiko, and they're both really nice. You can see a lot of similarities in their design, and that is because of something called the grammar of design, which a designer that Seiko hired at the time named Taro Tanaka implemented. And the implementation of this is basically that they want, like, no curved surfaces. So you see all these, these angles, straight lines. It's very angular and, like, modern looking. And that's something that has even carried over to Seiko today. So that's just the basic history of these watches. I'm sure there's more. I'm not going to get into any more. I'm not going to go into detail about the movements and how many different ones there are. There's a lot of them. You can just search, Google around, see. This honestly is my favorite King Seiko case shape. I just really like how, like, sharp and angular the lugs are. I think it looks great. It's about a 36 millimeter case, so it's pretty small, but they're really nice. So let's get into what to look for in this particular one anyway. This is a 56-26 movement, which is it's an automatic movement, and it is at least it was considered then a high beat movement. So that's why it says high beat on the dial there. But it's 28,800 beats per hour, which is, it's pretty standard today. But back then, not a lot of watches had most watches were much lower beat. So, you can find versions like 5625, I think, doesn't have the day, it just has the date. I'm not sure what other iterations there are, but here's some stuff you want to watch out for. First of all, crown. Crown should be a KS signed crown. It's a pretty nice one. I really like this crown. So watch out if it doesn't have, like, a KS signed crown. You may have to source one. Another thing, and here's a pitfall that I fell into. Look at the crystal here. This is definitely a replacement crystal, because that should be kind of angled right here. It should be beveled around the edges. It should not go straight up like this. So I kind of didn't notice that when I bought it, but this one I didn't pay too much for, fortunately. This one only sent me back, well, maybe I did, you be the judge. I paid $300 for this, and it's all right. I'm not super enamored with it, to be honest. And I'll get to the main reasons soon, but the case back here is very interesting. And the reason why it's so interesting to me anyway, it's a monocoque case in a dress watch. So you can see it says open through glass. So yeah, you have to open it through the front here. I'm sure it can be pried off right here. I'm not gonna do it, never tried it, won't mess with it. But yeah, it's a pretty cool case back. They have decorative medallions, and I know there are aftermarket medallions floating around, but I do not know how to tell the difference 100%. One thing I can say 100% for sure is that these case medallions were heat pressed on originally. So if you see any evidence of glue around here anywhere, that could indicate maybe a repair job or an aftermarket medallion, because the medallions are gold, so people did want to remove them. This was 1971 production year. I think that's pretty much all there is to say about the case back here. I mean, let's see, now the dial. The dial is something that you want to watch out for, and just to let you know, don't use this one as a guide. I believe, I can't say 100% for sure, if you can leave a comment, but look at the printing on that, where it says high beat with the Suwa watch factory symbol. I think this dial was refinished, and I think this printing was done, it's not original. And the reason I think that, the main reason I think that is the Suwa watch symbol right there. Suwa watch factory symbol looks a little thin to me. It doesn't look quite right. I mean, that may be fine with you, and it's certainly not the most expensive King Seiko out there, but I don't know. To me, if it's a refinished dial, I just kind of don't like it. Even if it's a really beat up dial, I would rather have that than kind of a refinished dial. I just like things to be original. And the other thing here, I don't know if you can really see it, but I think the painting on the hands was also kind of redone, because a lot of it is flaking off around the center, and I've never seen that on another watch. I assumed the hands were repainted, but I wasn't sure about the dial. So anyway, besides that, what you really want to watch out for is the movement, of course. Because if you end up with, expensive problems, your cheap watch may end up costing just as much as a much better example. And in this case, I really lucked out on the movement. It's running 4 seconds fast per day. The quickset day works, quickset date works, and they change over normally. And I have heard that it could be an expensive issue to deal with, which I'm not really sure about because I've never gotten one of these serviced. But, servicing a 1971 Seiko that was never sold in the United States where I live could obviously pose a problem. Now, this brings us to a watch I'm much happier with, even though I'll get into why I maybe shouldn't be. But anyway, the Grand Seiko, this one here, what number is that? Yes, 6146. 6146 movement has the day, and 6145 just has the date. So I wanted a 6145 because less things to worry about, but I just found a decent auction for a 6146, so I went for it because it looked all original. And I'll tell you something that I totally forgot to mention with the King Seiko here. Look at the angles on the cases and everything, right? Look at the edges. They're very sharp. There's still a lot of scratches on the cases, obviously, but that's kind of what I was looking for, to be honest. I don't wear these as dress watches. They're just kind of casual watches for me, which is why I put this one on this nice tan suede. And I wanted unpolished cases because a lot of times when people do polish these, what they end up doing, here's my camera doing its trademark trick, all right. What they end up doing is they over polish, and these sharp edges get kind of rounded out. And I mean, I think kind of the trademark of these watches, the things that I most admire about them are these angles and these sharp angles on the case design. It's just beautiful. And so if you're looking for one of these, I would, even if it's, polished, I would highly recommend looking for one that is polished in such a way that you still have these sharp angles here, because that is like the calling card of these watches. It's just absolutely beautiful. Now, with this particular case here, usually you can kind of see there's a different finishing here. It's like brushed straight like this. But on my example, that's kind of almost gone. But I don't think it's because of polishing. I just think it's because it's been scratched up so much. But you can find other examples of these where they just look fantastically nice. But those are quite expensive examples. I paid $700 all in for this, and I'm pretty happy with it. The dial here, the printing, it looks all original. The Suwa symbol looks correct to me. There's a few like blemishes on the dial, like maybe up here around the 12. There's a little mark down around here. There's a little nick in the crystal, but these usually go for a bit more than I paid for it. I paid for kind of a ratty model, which is what I was going for again. So there's that. Let's see here. The movement, I wanted to also point out, high beat 36,000. So this actually has what we would even consider today as a high beat automatic movement, which I think, for the price I paid for it, that's really cool. I really like that. Now I'm going to go right into what maybe I shouldn't like about this particular one. Let me see if I can get it to do its little party trick here. Come on. There it goes. It's going. It's going. Oh, come on. I want another Sunday. Oh, it's going backwards. I think it can only move forwards all the way. But yeah, the date wheel just moves around at will. I wore it for one full day so far, and during that day, the date changed 11 times. So it's just kind of, rolling around inside there. The quick set date does work though, so if I wanted to, I could set it back. The quick set day does not work, but the day changes over correctly. So also, it's running 20 seconds slow per day, and the little lever to regulate it is all the way to the fast side. So this watch is definitely due for a service, and I'm going to have to take care of that sometime soon. But I just wanted to point out the sweeping hand there. It is very smooth and pretty nice. The hands also have I think everything's original on the hands too. The paint is very, very, very thin line of paint down the center, which I like. There's other ones that don't have that. They have different hands that don't have that little black paint line down the center. I don't like that as much. That's just me. And now that I'm also looking at this, I think the date wheel or day wheel, not sure which one, but they're slightly different colors, aren't they? One of them may have been replaced. But yeah, for the price I paid for it, that's what I'm expecting. But here's another thing I definitely checked. The crystal, I believe, is original. This would not have the same crystal as the King Seiko I was looking at before. This has an acrylic crystal that kind of sticks up like this, and I believe this to be original. Grand Seiko GS signed crown, also original. Something you want to watch out for. This does not have a monocoque case back design. It also has one of those beautiful gold medallions, which once again I cannot tell if they are faked or not. A lot of times these medallions, by the way, they can be over polished and they lose this texture they have. But Since this watch wasn't really subject to a lot, if any, polishing, it is just fine. 1969 production year, so a very cool little piece. I think I've gone into everything that I wanted to talk about with these. There's a lot of resources online if you're looking to get one, and make sure you don't make like any mistakes like I kind of did on the King Seiko, not noticing it was a possibly refinished dial. But let me put this on for you really quick so we can get a wrist shot of it. This one is a 37 millimeter. It's a little thicker than the King Seiko as well, and it's it's not a big modern watch. It's a small vintage watch, and honestly, I think it just works great on this. Well, mine works great on this tan suede strap from. My strap is from B&R Bands, by the way. It's not focusing on the watch, is it? It's always focusing on what I don't want it to focus on. It thinks this is important. There. Now what do you think, camera? All right. So, yeah, it's just, it's a nice watch. The lugs do sit a little bit high sometimes, but because it's such a small watch, that doesn't matter at all. On a lot more modern watches with a longer lug-to-lug length, if you have high lugs, that really is not a good look. The watch is just kind of balancing on your wrist and flopping around. But this one, I don't have that problem with it. But it could also be because this strap is pretty thick. But yeah, oh, got caught there. There we go. So yeah. The strap is a bit thick on it. Anyway, I'm digressing, and that's pretty much all I have to say about these two. So like if you want one, definitely Google around, look at pictures. Don't, rush in too fast and try to get like just this one that you see right now, because it maybe it'll be the perfect one, maybe it won't. But it's more likely not to be based on my experience with these on eBay. There are a lot of people selling very expensive ones that they polished to hell, and they've lost all of those beautiful angles. So I'm pretty much done here. Thanks for watching. I've got another vintage Seiko in the pipeline that I'm probably going to be doing a video on soon. Maybe not in my next video, but we'll see. So anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. Definitely leave some comments if you have any experiences about your own King Seikos or Grand Seikos or whatever. Thanks for watching. This is Jeff, and this has been time for a new watch.